I'm really excited to have a guest joining me today. And I had the opportunity to not only meet Emily at a recent conference we were both speakers at in Ohio in February. And her topic was amazing. I cannot wait to share more with you, but let me take a minute and introduce to you Emily ROCHOTTE. Emily, thank you so much for joining me.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
I want to make sure that I share with everybody, first of all, you call yourself or title yourself a social media manager, content writer, and speaker. But one of the things that really stood out to me on your website was you said, let your content do the selling. You've got a business to grow. And that tagline on your website stood out to me so much. Will you take just a second or a minute or two and introduce yourself to my audience and a little bit about you?
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. I love that stood out to you. I do feel very passionately about that. So my background is in social media management and content writing for creative small business owners because that's what I love. That's what my business is. And I know that you did not get into business to do that. Whatever your business is, whoever you are as you're listening. And if you want to be a social media manager, you would have. And that's not what you're there to do. And so I want to take those responsibilities off people's plates by helping them understand their brand better and be able to market it on social media, market it through blog content, market it online, because we got to save time where we can to focus on the tasks that you got into business to actually do.
Well, and it's so interesting that you say that. I work with a lot of small businesses and organizations. And me and my team have been very fortunate over the years to work with people in all different types of industries. And one of the things that I always hear from people is they are so focused on their business and operating their business. There isn't time to think about marketing it or anything like that. And I say that with the caveat, it's a must. It's not something that you open your doors and boom, they just come. Now, if that happens to you, awesome, but that's not always the case. And me and you briefly spoke about this before we got started. And that's the talk about what potentially is going to happen with TikTok. Before we get started on our topic today, which is going to be about TikTok, I want to make sure that we mention something because we talked before we got started recording. There's a lot of talk going on about TikTok and what's going to happen with it. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it in this episode. And Emily, I'll let you comment as well. My take on it is this. Everybody has the right to have their own opinions and how they feel about things. And social media platforms can come and go. We don't own them. And there are new ones, it seems like, that come about. Some stay around while others come in, and then before you know it, they're gone. So I want to share with everyone, use these social media platforms to your advantage for your business. If something does happen, Emily is going to share with you some tips that you can utilize if something was to happen with TikTok. And Emily, I want to give you just a minute to say something about this before we go on.
Yeah, I completely agree. We don't own anything. Some things I do want to point out about what may or may not happen is that we have had this conversation before. And when the conversation happened several years ago about what might happen to TikTok, people thought, well, I'm not going to use it. It's not a good use of time. But then the platform stayed, and that time that you could have been growing your audience was lost. We don't know for sure what will happen, and even if it does go away, that won't happen for several more months. We don't want to miss out on that opportunity to grow our audience, but like Kristina said, we will definitely be talking more about what to do to prepare in the event that it were to go away, and that can happen with anything, like we saw with Meta outages recently, LinkedIn being down. Anything can go away at any time. This isn't necessarily precautions for TikTok specifically.
And some of the things that we're going to talk about really can go across multiple platforms. Although we're going to talk about some specifics with TikTok, I believe that some of these takeaways you will be able to utilize on different platforms. So Emily, I want to start off this conversation by, it was such a pleasure to meet you at the conference that we both spoke at. What a wonderful organization that we had an opportunity to meet some incredible members of. And you spoke on TikTok. And I took notes, and I even took pictures that I shared with you. It got my attention. And what I mean by that is, being in the industry that I'm in with digital marketing, some things that you hear about, not everything catches your attention, but your delivery on it, the tips and information you shared was gold. So I immediately asked, I was maybe the first person to talk to you after you were done, to say, I would love to have you come on and be a guest and give you that feedback. Your delivery on it was great. And sometimes when you're talking about certain topics, I talk a lot about AI, you can lose some of your audience. And it impressed me to see the number of people that stayed with you when you were having these conversations. So it was a great time at that conference, wasn't it?
It was, and I appreciate you saying that so much. I feel very passionately about it, so I love to be able to talk about TikTok with anybody who will listen. And so I'm so grateful that you found tidbits to take notes on and that you really enjoyed it.
I did. So let's talk about one of the first things that you mentioned, where I think you got some of the room's attention, maybe that weren't fully paying attention to every word you were saying. You shared about, of course, TikTok is short form video, but you also shared about it being a search engine.
It is. It's absolutely a search engine, and it's something that's going to continue being even more of a search engine. A good portion of Gen Z is using it as a search engine, and not in a way that they're doing research for school papers or things like that. They're searching every other component of their lives. They're searching lifestyle tips. They're searching what their next hairstyle is going to be. They're searching for their next recipe. They're searching for their next travel ideas. And that's not just Gen Z, it's millennials as well. But it is outpacing Google in certain aspects in terms of search. And so the way that we approach it is not just social media. We're also approaching the content we create for it the way that we would a blog post or other resources that we're putting on Google, because we want people to be able to search for what they're looking for and find their answers with us and the content that we're creating.
Well, and one of the interesting things that we discussed, I think on camera before we went to recording, was you shared that saving your content, and if something was to happen to a platform, or for example TikTok, you would have that content saved separately from the platform. Can you touch a little bit more on that?
Absolutely. I firmly believe that everybody should be creating their content off apps as much as possible. And even if you're not using TikTok and you're Reels only, or you're even long form YouTube, we want to be recording outside of apps, editing outside of these social media platforms. And if you are even creating in TikTok and saving to TikTok and posting it there, we want to download it. It will have the watermark, and there are third-party apps to remove those watermarks, but really we don't want to be spending all of our time making content. That's just not what you're in the business to do. And so the more that we can repurpose and reuse, the better. I find too often that people get hung up on, well, people on TikTok saw this video, I can't post it to Reels, or I said this in a Reel a few months ago, it's going to be redundant if I say it on TikTok. And that's just not true. People are not paying that close of attention to you. It sounds harsh, but it's true. And even if they are, that's great, because now they've heard it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. It takes people several times for things to really register. It's like when we're selling something, they need to see it several times to buy it. And so the more that we're saying things and the more that people are hearing them, the more that they're building that trust with us, because they know, oh, they're standing by what they said. That's what they're continuing to teach. So repurposing your content as much as possible and just saving everything. And that goes for your personal stuff too on social media. All those pictures that you post and those memories, you want to save those somewhere, because any platform can go away at any time, or it can crash at the least convenient time. So if you're like, I know that I need to get around to that, I need to make it a project to save everything, don't wait on any of that, because you never know when something's going to go down.
I was over here writing down notes because I wanted to interrupt you and I didn't want to forget some of the things. One of the things that just stood out in my mind, I saw some people posting on Facebook, I believe it was Facebook, about a iOS update, and they had lost a lot of their pictures, voicemails, and what it comes down to is memories that were not retrievable from a recent update. So there's one thing that I wanted to go back to that you had just mentioned, but also how you talked about the third-party apps that remove the watermarks. Share with me your take. So if someone does a video on TikTok Should they take that video and put it right up on Instagram?
Well, first they should absolutely remove the watermark. They need to stop. We got to get the word out. You can get rid of the watermark. It's not impossible. But yeah, at a minimum, you can go turn around and put it right on Reels. I think that if you find that a lot of your audience is similar on both platforms, I would maybe stagger it. Make a few videos. One goes up on TikTok today, a different one goes up on Reels, and then the next day maybe switch or alternate them over a few days just so that things are kind of staying fresh and people aren't seeing the same thing twice right away. That being said, people aren't consuming content the way that everybody else is. So as someone who is in social media, I do see a lot of stuff. I will notice more likely than most people if you post something and then post something on another platform immediately. But again, I understand that time is a constraint. So if you're like, I made this one video, I have 10 minutes, I know that I'm not going to post something again this week, go ahead and get it on both platforms. We're not losing anything by doing that, but if you have time and if you are creating more of a strategy, which is our ideal goal, then you're going to want to plan that out. But don't ever say, oh, this is on TikTok, I can't post it on Instagram, or because we don't think that way about Instagram and Facebook. A lot of times there's that little button, it just lets you pop it right over in one post. And so we want to view our platforms as just how many people can we reach with this message that we want to get out there.
How you just said that. And being in the tech field like I am, I try to share with people about scheduling tools. And of course, we can go down a rabbit hole of do the algorithms like when you use a third-party software and things like that. And sure, there are strategies that you can utilize to maximize the algorithms by using a scheduler 75% of the time, but 25% of the time posting right in the platform. And I love what you share about, yes, you can put out the same content, but it is probably better to put it out maybe on different days if you do have an overlap in your audience. And like you've said, how many times people have to see content, that it's not necessarily a bad thing if they do hear the same message. And this takes me into one of the other things that you shared. You got into a breakdown of Gen Z, millennials, like it sparked this maybe eye-opening moment with the audience there. But you shared that 64% of Gen Z consumers have used TikTok as a search engine. That's 6 people out of 10. I think that number, it surprised the people in the audience. But I think when people hear this, it will surprise them as well that this is a platform that Gen Z, as well as other age groups, are using for research.
It absolutely is. And even if they're not searching on TikTok, TikTok videos are continuing to move up and up and up in search engine rankings when you're doing a Google search. So even if people aren't finding that video in their searches on TikTok, they may be finding TikTok videos in their searches in other places. And so it's becoming a resource. Yes, of course, your video is going to come up on their For You page and your feed like it would on Instagram. And that's why people view it as a social media. But people are taking it a step further and they're looking for specific content and they're looking for specific people. And people are searching. If they follow you on another platform, there's a good chance that they're looking for you on TikTok because they want to keep up with what you're posting. And so we want to be treating it like a search result. So not trying to focus on every viral trend and trying to show up on everybody's page all the time. We also want to be creating that evergreen content that's going to be the resource that people might be looking for at any time. It's okay if they find a video that's a month old or 2 months old, if that answer still stands and what you said is still an accurate response to whatever they're searching. We want to optimize that with hashtags, with the text that we're using on the video, with the text in the comments, in the captions. We want to optimize it for people to find it when they search.
Such a good point. And one of the follow-up pieces that you went into after sharing this is you talked about the content types. And I think a lot of times, again, dealing with small business owners and those that are consumed with their business operations, a lot of times they don't have a team or they have a small staff. They think TikTok, oh, I'm not going to dance. And I really liked how you shared about content types. And you talked about educational, transformational, comedic, and trends. And I thought that I could see a shift in the audience because it's nice to get there and see, or nice to watch people and how they kind of change. And you almost could see this kind of, like their shoulders settle down, like just settle in. And you spoke about how you can talk about your business and the transformations. And I'd love for you to share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if somebody does want to dance, I'm not saying don't do it, but that's just not what TikTok is anymore. It's there, but it's not what it was like when it started. And so we're really just trying to make sure that every piece of content we put out, somebody's taking something away from it. So whether they have learned something and it was educational, whether you made them laugh, you entertained them, that can be both. We can combine these. You can have a comedic approach to the way that you teach things. You can teach things by showing a transformation, depending on what your business is. What problem did people come to you with and want help with, and what did you create for them? How can we show that before and after? And then of course there's always going to be the trends that we can get on, and those aren't just dancing trends. Those are any kinds of things that go with music, or different filters maybe that people are using to tell stories. We want to be careful with the filters, but there are trends that go around them, and we want to make sure that we are providing value to people. We're not just showing up and talking about nothing. People aren't interested in that. Attention spans are short. We need to hook people in. And so it really comes down to, what can people get out of you? And it may sound selfish, but I want to know, like, I need something and I need an answer and I need it now. And who's going to give it to me the fastest and the clearest when I'm looking for it? And you can be that person, because if you're not that person, your competitor is that person, and we don't want that for you.
That is such a good point. And I speak a lot about AI, technology, tools, software, all of that. But I also talk about authenticity. I feel like it's really important. And with all of the different things that are being talked about with AI, what's real, what's not. When I work with clients and when we're talking about their strategies and things like that, I encourage them to do video and be on screen, because that creates a different kind of connection than just, and I'm all for walking videos, absolutely, with text on the screen. You even showed some examples of those different types of video styles, which was great as well. B-roll content, absolutely. But allowing yourself to connect with your target audience, with your followers, it is just another way to nurture that relationship along the way.
Absolutely. And I know that there's always pushback. I don't feel comfortable being on camera. I don't have this, I don't have that. But really it comes down to, if you have a smartphone with a camera, that's really all you need. Sit by a window for good lighting. You don't need to buy a ring light. Just take a walk outside. Sit in the car. Somehow the car always has the best lighting. I don't know what the secret is there, but it's just always so good. And just really just show up as yourself, because people need to be able to know you and like you and trust you before they give you their money. And the higher the prices are on the services that you offer, the things that you sell, the more trust there needs to be in that. And showing people what you can do for them is one thing, and that is what people are buying, right? Oh, I want that result for myself. But I could get that result from a couple different people. Who am I connecting with? Who is showing up for me? And so showing up on camera is so huge, because it creates that authenticity that you're saying, Kristina. We need to be able to feel like we can connect through the screen and have that conversation and get to know each other in that way. There is something to be said for other types of content, but showing up is going to be the highest engaging content. You're going to find that the videos that you are in are almost always going to perform better than videos where people can't see you, or it is just B-roll footage. And I know that there's a big trend right now of people talking about faceless content and how we can use that to leverage. And I'm not saying that's not possible, but when it comes to buying something, people want that connection and they want that trust. And I can tell you that the value that's going to come out of showing up on camera and being there with the people, essentially, but through the screen, is going to outweigh any of that internal judgment you're having about yourself on camera, or any kind of those feelings that are holding you back are smaller than the greater value of what you're going to get out of it. So I do really encourage people to challenge your comfort zone as much as possible. I know it can seem so scary, but once you start doing it and you start showing up on camera and people start liking it and engaging, you're just like, oh, I don't know what I was scared of in the beginning, because this is great.
Absolutely. I had to write more notes. See, when you talk, I don't want to lose these thoughts that pop in. Just like there's a time and place for professional video versus cell phone video, there's a time and place for your face on the screen versus B-roll or showcasing your work or other things like that, faceless videos that you mentioned. And that brings me around, I've mentioned this before, is with short form video has opened up an opportunity to level the playing field for small businesses compared to medium or large size businesses, because a lot of times you see the trends of what connects with people is raw, authentic, not lighting, not necessarily fancy microphones. Although I do say there's a time and place when that makes sense, especially for content, for example, on your website. And there are many other opportunities that I could share, but I like what you said, and it leads me to get started, to turn your camera on. That is what I hear you saying is just pick up your phone and start recording.
1000%. And you're right, there is a time and place for professional video, but I do find that on TikTok, people just want what's real. They want what people are doing in their everyday lives. That's why we see so many TikTok videos where people are making these get ready with me videos and they're putting their makeup on while they're telling a story. It's because people want that. They want that raw connection with you. And that's not to say that professional video can't do that, but I think that's where there's such a big bonus and of being a small business owner, because bigger brands, they struggle sometimes when it comes to TikTok, because who's going to be the face of those videos? Who is going to be around in our company long enough to always represent us in that way? And so when you are a small business and you are the face of that business, that is such a powerful tool that I hate seeing be wasted when people don't want to show up on camera, because that's where the power is in small business that a large business has trouble replicating on social media. And it's not to say that it can't be done, but you have the power to show up authentically and create that connection with just your phone in a way that we always couldn't. And you're absolutely right. Professional video has its place on our website in other places, but we don't need that to get started on TikTok.
So for someone that's listening or watching and they haven't done much from a business standpoint on TikTok, what is something that you would share with them?
I would share two things with them. The first is that even if you're just like, I don't want to do TikTok right now, I don't know that I'll ever want to do it, but I definitely don't want to do it right now, I strongly encourage you to at least download it or go to TikTok.com on your computer and grab your business's handle. It's so important, because the amount of people that I have talked to who were like, I wanted nothing to do with TikTok, I thought it was going to go away, and didn't do that. And now some other business has taken it, or somebody has started a platform on TikTok and they have all these followers and they have your handle. But to the TikTok world, you are the one that's now coming in trying to be them with a handle that seems similar, even if you may have been in business longer. So go grab that. I can't say it's yours because nobody owns it yet, but that's your business. That's your name, and you want to grab that as soon as possible. And then once you are ready to start posting, the first thing that I hear is, well, I don't even know what to post on there. Like, what do I even create? And so once you're there and you're just like, how do I get started? I always encourage people to really sit down and start writing out all of your frequently asked questions. What are people asking you about your business? What are they asking you about their business that you can help with? And then write down all the questions you wish people were asking you that would make it easier to get started working with you or make their lives easier. And those are answers that you have that you can help them with. And each one of those topics is its own video. We want to break down things as much as possible on TikTok and not make these long form videos. There is power in long form video on TikTok. I know that they're experimenting with it more, but at the end of the day, the quicker you can get an answer to people, the better. You're helping there, and people start coming back because they're relating to you and they want to learn from you. Then we can move into longer form video with more in-depth answers and start answering more of those questions that people are asking you, because those will come. You'll start brainstorming your own videos, topics, and you'll start making those videos. But eventually people are going to start watching them. They're going to have questions. They're going to start commenting. And TikTok allows you to just take those comments that people have asked their questions in and pop it up on a video and make a video about it. And so eventually the content is going to be creating itself for you, but you have to do the initial work for a while, come up with those topics. And that's where the search engine compatibility comes in, because if we're treating things like questions, we're like, oh, this will be the answer if somebody was looking for an answer to this question. Now, people aren't going to come to TikTok and type in a full question the way they may on Google. They're going to be typing in topics or specific keywords, but we want to be showing up for what they're searching for. And so answering questions as much as possible, even if you don't necessarily format the video in the form of a question, that is really where you're going to see value in reaching the people who are looking for you.
And you're going to share a handout with everyone. And I've seen this handout and it's great. It is such a good, simple tool, which is a perfect fit. I try to simplify things for people. So about sharing this handout, we will put a link down below in the description or in the show notes where everyone can download Emily's handout. And I think whether you're already producing content for yourself or you're just getting started, I think that handout will be a great tool along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you sharing that, Kristina, because it will help you come up with the video ideas, but it's also going to help you optimize your content. People are making really incredible content on TikTok, and I see it, but when we're not doing things like putting hashtags, adding closed caption, using title images on our videos, there's a lot of those kinds of checkpoints that we want to make sure that we're doing before we post a video to optimize that it's reaching as many people as possible and helping people who are looking for it find it as easily as we possibly can. So that will all be in the resource for you to be able to optimize your videos as much as possible before putting them out into the world.
Well said. And I really appreciate you've shared so much in just a short amount of time that whether someone is already utilizing TikTok or they're just going to take the nudge from both of us and just, okay, I hear you. And as you shared, if you're out there and you have not used TikTok, please take Emily up on what she said and at least go in and secure your username, or as TikTok calls it, I believe it's considered your handle actually on that platform, just so you have it. We do that with all businesses that we work with that are either starting up or they're launching another brand under their umbrella. You know, that is one of the things that we list out is claim all of your social media handles across the board, regardless if you ever think that you'll use it. So excellent tip. And Emily, I would love to invite you to come back if you're open to it down the road and dive into some other strategies with short form content. You shared so many tips just in this short amount of time. I would love to have you back.
I would love to be back anytime. Happy to talk about short form content. I feel very passionately about it. Whether or not anything happens to TikTok, we're still going to be consuming short form video in just different places. So anytime, happy to be back.
Well, and like you said on your website, is your content can and should be doing the selling. It's so many times, I feel like a lot of times people feel like they're a little behind the eight ball when it comes with social media. And they're just like, oh, I need to post something. Oh, I haven't put a video up. I need to record a video. And there's so much power in a strategy with the different platforms, but also across the board. So I knew that this would be a great conversation, just hearing you speak at the conference, but also reviewing your information. That really hit home for me when I went to your website and saw that you have a business to grow. And thank you so much for taking the time to share this information, and can't wait to talk about other things that we could possibly work on in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Kristina. I was happy to be here.
And real quick, before you run, would you share with people what is the best way to connect with you? And I bet you're probably going to say TikTok.
TikTok is definitely one way, but you said so many nice things about my website. My website, my Instagram handle, and my TikTok handle are all the same. It's Emily ROCHOTTE, ROCHOTTE, obviously a .com after that for the website. But any of those places, slide into my DMs, say hello. I don't bite. I'm very friendly. I love talking to people. So please, if you enjoyed this episode, tag me, tag Kristina, and come say hi. And if you're interested in working with me, you can do that on my website as well.
Well, one thing before I let you go that you don't know about, I'm going to ask you a question that has nothing to do with social media or business. Okay. What is your favorite food?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
You can
so
only
many.
pick one, and it's okay.
Texas Roadhouse rolls. I feel very passionately about Texas Roadhouse. It's my favorite, and so those rolls, let me tell you. If you haven't tried them and you're listening to this, head down to your local Texas Roadhouse.
You know what? I have so many things to say about that, and I'm going to say it. True statement. We are ordering that for family dinner in 2 days. Also, my niece works there. She absolutely loves it. I think it's because she can
As she should, because that's what her t-shirt probably says. I heart my job. That's what they wear. It's go to a Texas Roadhouse in every state. I think I'm at like state 7 or 8 right now. I love Texas Roadhouse. So
Okay, so the other thing is, in all seriousness, let me tell you about Texas Roadhouse. They are not a sponsor of this, nothing. It didn't really stand out to me. We did have a food publication for a number of years. So I met with their general partner for our local one. And it was that then I had a little insight to how that whole operation ran. But when COVID hit, that dreaded C word that I'm bringing up, there's a reason I'm bringing it up. They just immediately went to work with a system to make it safer for their workers, safer for people, and quickly. Like, it isn't something that took months for them to put in place. From ordering online, which you could already do, but parking spot numbers, they put in a dedicated pickup window. The list goes on, and I've had a conversation with my niece about this. Everything is completely systematized. And I worked in restaurants before in my life, and I believe that there has to be certain systems, but there are some that take it to a whole nother level. And when you said that, when I knew as soon as I heard you say the name, I was like, what a great business to bring up, especially with what I do, is because right there you can go and see how implementing technology and systems in your business helps it run as a well-oiled machine.
absolutely. And the branding component to it as well. Their armadillo, their rolls, there's legendary icons with it. It could be a marketing lesson in itself. Bring me back on the podcast. We could talk about Texas Roadhouse for an hour. If they're listening, you should sponsor this.
Part 2 will be on Texas Roadhouse, and we'll find some ways where we can showcase some screenshots and things like that about marketing. And I'm going to go look up their TikTok as soon as I'm done with this, because I'm curious. Yep. Now, I don't think I've even seen their TikTok. So, see, this question usually causes an immediate left turn, but your answer did not. At first, you're talking about dinner rolls, but it really goes right into here about your marketing, your brand, and your advertising. So, excellent answer. Did not know that answer was coming. Honestly,
I got a little nervous. I didn't know what the question was going to be, and then now I want Texas Roadhouse.
Well, good news. You'll have to come in town. I foresee us needing to do a conference together here, because there's one 10 minutes from me.
I'm so jealous. My closest one is like almost an hour away, and so I can't have rolls all the time, and so it's a delicacy when I get to go.
And I'm not even going to ask you how many times you make that special trip or anything like that, but honestly, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate your time. Make sure you get the handout, whether you're using short form video or not, regardless if you're on TikTok or not. The download can be a tool for you to use in your business on any platform. So, Emily, thank you again so much. Make sure to connect up with her. And until next time, everyone, take care. Question for you. Did you know that TikTok is a search engine?
64% of Gen Z consumers are using TikTok to search all aspects of their lives, from lifestyle to workouts to trends.
You don't want to miss my guest, Emily ROCHOTTE, as we talk about TikTok, short form video, and Texas Roadhouse dinner rolls.